The Joe Rogan Experience.
To me, one of the uplifting features of being rooted in the arts and music is that no matter how ugly and vicious and hateful things are, it never suffocates the human spirit. Somebody gonna tell a joke and make you laugh. Somebody gonna sing a song and touch your soul.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's almost a way of saying, I love you, not in a sentimental Hollywood stereotypical way. But you know that song by Stevie Wonder, These Three Words?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Lord. You got that, man?
We can't play it.
Oh, you can't play? Oh,
No,
I thought
we'll get copyright
because that was a video that you put up there before.
Yeah, but that video
Oh,
was
man.
Gary Johnson singing in a concert.
That
Playing in a
you
concert.
did, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
we can
man,
get away
you
with
just
that.
Listen to Stevie, man, because he's talking about how an aching heart can be kindled to smile and open and connect in a world overwhelmed by hatred and distrust that is shot through all of us, and we all contribute to it. We all contribute to it, you see. I mean, that's one of the reasons why even when I talk about, Brother Trump as the gangster, I call him a kind of, we have created a fascist Frankenstein, and he's the creation of the worst of America in the way in which Martin King represents the best, and they are both America's apple pie. But any critique of anybody ought to begin with yourself. Ought to begin with who we are, because we all got gangster elements inside of us.
Yeah.
No way around it.
Do you know Trump?
To be human. No, I've never met. I met him one time, I think, at the end of a Anita Baker concert in the casinos in Atlantic City way back in the 80s.
Wow.
And it was interesting. He was there with Mike Tyson, I think. And it was interesting because it was a chocolate affair. You know what I mean? He the vanilla brother there.
Right.
And, one of the first things that come across to the brother is that he just so glad to be there hanging out with the black brothers, cool and so forth. You could just tell he just a square as a rectangle. You say, man, you go listen to your Beach Boys, man. Shit, we got James Brown, brother. We Brian Wilson, we love you, but we got JB, man. And it's a cultural dynamic because he was the richest one in the room, though.
Right.
And Mike Tyson got a lot of money, and Don King got some of that money too. But it was a different kind of dynamic. And so it's a context in which you embrace, we embrace them because that's the best of black culture. We embrace everybody.
Right.
You know what I mean? If Donald Trump's mother shows up from Scotland in 1930, black people been here 9 generations, we ain't going to say, go back where you come from. Come on in here, sister. Be part of this democratic experiment. We on the other side, the chocolate side of town, but we welcome you. But don't say nothing about our brown brothers and sisters coming in from Mexico. Because if anybody's definitive about what is America, it's going to be red and black people. Because they're the ones who undergo the monstrous crimes against humanity, the genocide, the stolen land on the one hand, and the stolen peoples and the human bondage on the other. Those are the pillars. The worst pillars of the country. Then you got democratic visions coming not just from Thomas Jefferson, but they're coming from the slaves like Frederick Douglass. See what I mean?
The border crisis is a very interesting one, right? Because it represents the fear of people from the downtrodden countries where they don't have opportunity trying to get into this country.
Yes.
But then it also represents the fear of criminals, of drug dealers and gangsters and gang members, cartel members making their way across and victimizing our citizens.
And both things are human.
Both things are real,
both things
too.
Are human. But if you tell the lies and make it as if the latter represent the whole, and that's what Trump specializes in, you see.
Did you see the video of Pence when he was down there at the detention centers and just looking away, no humanity, just very disturbing.
And it's so, it's so sad because here's a brother who stakes his whole personal identity
on Christianity,
on being a Christian.
Yes.
And you say
to
yourself, like, Brother Michael, I mean, as a fellow Christian, I'm not trying to call into question your Christian faith or nothing. I don't have the authority to do that. But the Bible says in part, by thy works you shall know them. the works of love they exemplify, you see. And, nowadays you got commodified Christianity and a commodified culture of a declining empire. And you get Christian evangelicals, 91% or so pro-Trump, 79% say he's doing the best possible job. And you say to yourself, wow, Christianity seems to have lost the meaning of the cross and has become so accommodated to the empire. And it was the Roman Empire who put Jesus to death. Right? It was the Roman Empire. You had some neo-colonial elites who cooperated, but it was the Roman Empire who put Jesus to death. It was the greatest empire of its day, very much like the Persian Empire. The largest, greatest empire of its day with Cyrus the Great. Now you got the Roman Empire putting Jesus to death. And here Jesus is sent there by the crowd, by the mob. And you say to Brother Michael Pence, so you're going to accommodate yourself to Donald Trump. You're going to accommodate yourself to policies that are so inhumane and barbaric just to retain your position and try to then rationalize it as a Christian? We need some music and some comedy to try to get in contact with his humanity to change him. But most importantly, you just need a social movement. You need to get him out of office. You need accountability.
But with Pence, just seeing him in reaction to those people is just a failure of perspective.
Just cold, distant, and callous.
Well, the narrative is that they broke the law and that they're imposing upon our great nation. And, this is it's crimes of opportunity. They're trying to find opportunity. They're coming over here because they want a better life. To not have sympathy for that.
And other than indigenous peoples and my own African peoples, that is the history of the country.
Yes.
To open and bring into the country those who are eager and have energy, willing to work and sacrifice, and the unbelievable contribution of voluntary immigrants to the making of America. Now, America's not a nation of immigrants. I don't like that language because it overlooks indigenous peoples and involuntary immigrants like black people. And slavery was not America's original sin. That's another neoliberal lie that you hear all the time on the corporate media, as if indigenous people's suffering has to be rendered invisible to highlight black people.
What's one of the least discussed injustices of this nation, right?
Absolutely.
And then their current situation with their in these reservations with extreme alcoholism,
social
and drug addiction,
misery, and they still got the rich music and poetry and resistance, but the social conditions are just. But they are the casualties of a settler colonial enterprise, and we'd rather act as if they don't exist.
Right.
I mean, we black people became central because our labor and our imagination and culture became central, and we had a barbaric civil war, 750,000 people dead, each life precious. And that has been the central event in the shaping of America. So that when people talk about race, they go straight to blackness, as if indigenous peoples and redness is not integral to. It's just that they've been rendered so invisible, and the vicious attack has been so immense.
Well, it's so complicated, too, that they have their own rules on the reservations. They're allowed to have gambling. They can have all sorts of... They have their own sovereignty in a certain way on the reservations. It's very odd.
Oh, no, it's true. And I was blessed to be there in Standing Rock on a couple of Decembers ago. It was one of the... marvelous moments in my life to stand there with the group there. It was a multiracial group. People came from all around the world. Naomi Klein from Canada. And for the most part, it was a matter of the indigenous peoples coming together. Memories of Wounded Knee, 1890. Over 400 people.
Could you remind people what Standing Rock was about?
Standing Rock was a struggle over that pipeline.
Yeah.
Absolutely, trying to put pressure on the Obama administration to ensure that a pipeline was not built that would violate the sacred lands and many of the sacred memories of indigenous peoples. And it was magnificent because you had the coming together of indigenous nations, because part of the problem, this is true for all oppressed people, is fighting among themselves. and the difficulty of coming together. It was the first time you had the coming together of a significant number of indigenous peoples' nations unified against the greedy corporate elites who were trying to promote this pipeline through Canada all the way down to the southern section of the United States. And it was
How did that
historic.
resolve?
Well, we got an announcement right when we were there. It was freezing too, man. It was December.
And they were hosing people down, too.
Oh, Lord, Jeff.
They were hosing people down, wetting them down while this was all going on.
And it was about minus 15 or whatever it was. It was freezing up there, you know. And but no, we got an announcement from the Obama administration for a suspension of it. Because they had planned to do it, too. I mean, you know, Obama administration can be very accommodating to Wall Street interests and corporate elite interests and so forth, even given the image and spectacle of a black president being a progressive and what have you. Much more progressive than Trump, but that's not saying too much, right? But we got a suspension, and the struggle continues, really. But it sent tremendous ripples through the cultures of indigenous peoples and their nations in terms of coming together.
And the fact that it was successful.
Absolutely. And there was at least a relative victory.
Yeah.
All these victories are relative, but a very relative victory. But it was beautiful just to see again. You know, you can't downplay the role of joy, though, brother. This is so very important. The joy in struggle. The joy in organizing, the joy in fighting for justice, the joy in the nightclubs, the joy in the churches and mosques or temples or synagogues. Joy is something that we need to come back to. That's one of the great secrets of the human conditions. What are the sources of joy? What are the conditions for the possibility of joy? We've been obsessed with pleasure for the last 100 years or so. And there's nothing wrong with pleasure, but pleasure is not the same thing as joy at all. When you look at the sparkling eyes of your precious daughter, that's not pleasure, that's joy. You and your wife, that's deep, deep joy, you see. That's what endures. You could be broke as the 10 Commandments financially, but that memory will bring you joy.